of crime, and I wish him well, and I know he will succeed. The same way in the past I've been able to handle those other national security challenges.
Earlier today, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja appeared before the National Assembly Internal Security Committee, distancing the police from abduction and extrajudicial killing cases, despite IPOA's recent report linking the police to the abductions during the Gen Z-led protests.
Where a kidnap has happened or alleged kidnapping has happened, and we've been able to investigate, and clearly from investigation is pointing to the special unit.
Police don't abduct, police don't kidnap. Police only arrests, and we detain in the law facility.
Despite claiming that the police were not in any way involved in the abductions, he noted that 57 cases of abductions have been reported since June this year. Of the 57, 29 still remain unaccounted for. 22 were found alive, with 6 of the victims found dead. According to Kanja, investigations are still ongoing regarding all cases of abductions. Kanja also called for enhanced funding to the NPS to help curb such cases.
There is also need for enhanced funding to the National Police Service for installation of CCTV cameras in all major roads to help to curb crimes.
Out of the 57 cases of abductions, 18 were reported in Nairobi, 11 in Northeastern region, 10 in the coastal region. 7 of the cases were from Rift Valley, 5 in the Eastern region, 4 in Nyanza and 2 in the Central region. DCI Deputy Chief John Onyango during the session highlighted that investigations into the murder of Wells Fargo HR Willis Ayeko are almost complete, with 2 suspects dead and 3 in custody. Onyango also provided an update on the case of 3 murdered women in Eastleigh, linking main suspect Dagane Mohamed, believed to be an Ethiopian national with a Kenyan ID, to a mutilated body found in Langata Cemetery on October 31st.
This person is a Somali, I think, from Ethiopian origin.
But you are given that he is a holder of a Kenyan ID number.
Yeah, but originally he came.
Sorry?
Originally. Even me, I'm a Luo, but I came through Sudan, Kenya. So I think
but it's a Kenyan?
He's a Kenyan. We are going to verify further.
Okay.
Because he had a family in Ethiopia. And we understand, not confirmed very much, that he had 3 wives. And in Ethiopia, he killed one of the wives.
Onyango further noted that despite the rising cases of femicide, statistics indicate that the number of men killed is higher than those of women, regardless, calling for enhanced surveillance in the country. The abduction of Delaware MCA also took center stage during the session, with IG Kanja indicating that investigations are still ongoing.
It's been 2 months since he disappeared. It's you people that have the MCA.
Kanja also highlighted that no one has been arrested yet regarding the murder of Rita Waini, almost 11 months after she was murdered.
Why do you think it has to take us all this long to get culprits?
It's the government that have these people, not anyone else.
Ian Keitani, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, even as former Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki handed over the pressing issue of killings to his successor, the new deputy president outlined his priorities for the security docket during his tenure. Kindiki described his 2 years as Interior CS as successful, highlighting his achievements in combating terrorism, addressing banditry, and clearing the passport backlog at Nyayo House. Upon assuming the deputy president's office, Kindiki made a call for national unity. Gladys Midecha reports.
Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki appears to have settled in his new role as the second in command of the Republic, choosing his Harambee Annex office for his maiden briefing. In what he termed a challenging assignment, Kindiki outlined his successes over the past 2 years as Interior CS. Amongst his first assignments was to fight banditry, which had grounded parts of northern Kenya to a halt. Students and teachers had fled schools and families had been displaced.
To arrest possible breakdown of law and order, a police-led security operation with the support of the military was declared on 13th February 2022. 23. It has been 19 months of sustained war on bandits in the north of our country.
His in-tray remained busy throughout his term as he turned his attention to fighting terrorism.
To the commanders and officers of various security agencies and to the communities for their help as we look forward to sustaining the prevailing peace in these previously bandit-infested areas of our country. I will forever cherish the useful input of communities profoundly represented by the Under the Tree conversations I had with elders and residents at the foot of Arabal Hills in Baringo.
As the country, especially in the hinterland, took center stage, another related challenge was brewing at the capital. Thousands were facing challenges at Nyayo House due to protracted delays in the issuance of passports. Kindiki now says the situation has been normalized and the backlog has been cleared, new printers acquired and debts paid.
As I leave the reins of the ministry, I am proud to report that the corruption cartels of staff and members of the public that used to harass passport applicants have been dismantled, and 17 ringleaders, including immigration officers, are facing ongoing criminal prosecution.
Kindiki, who was sworn in a week ago, has lapped up to his new role. The new deputy president, in his maiden briefing, focused on uniting the country after a period of heightened political tension that saw Rigathi Gachagua kicked out of office.
For the aspiration of forging a united Kenya to materialize, we must accept each other, recognize our equality, accept that diversity and difference among us are for building rather than destroying us. A united nation is better equipped to deal with the challenges and overcome the obstacles we face in an increasingly complex, unpredictable, and insecure world.
Kindiki reiterated his position of serving the president as his deputy as the Kenya Kwanza government focuses on delivering its pre-election pledges. Gladys Midecha, K24.
Now, an 18-member committee has been established by Parliament to address the ongoing dispute over the equitable share of revenue to counties for the current financial year. Now, the team, composed of 9 MPs and 9 senators, are to resolve a month-long deadlock after disagreement surfaced regarding the proposed reduction of county funding by 20 billion shillings. Now, Alan Owino with that report.
The formation of an 18-member mediation committee established to address the ongoing dispute over the equitable share of revenue to be allocated to counties for the current financial year. The committee today met for its first session.
To provide for equitable sharing of...
The stalemate arose when MPs approved 380 billion shillings for county allocation, contrary to the Senate's initial request of 400 billion through an adjustment introduced in the Division of Revenue Bill 2024 after President William Ruto's withdrawal of the contentious Finance Bill 2024.
And we know for sure that the issue before us is both an issue of public resources in terms of DORA, Division of Revenue, but we also know that we are politicians. So let us strike a balance. We don't go to the extreme of either, so that at one point we are taking care of when we'll be tabling in the National Assembly, but on the other side taking care of that we need to unlock resources for our county governments.
Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, forming part of the Senate team, in his response to the National Assembly Budget Committee Chair Ndindi Nyora's remarks, accused the National Assembly of blackmailing the Senate to get their way.
The Chair of Budget being here, I have heard you throwing around numbers and figures. I don't know where you're getting those things from. I'm sure you will tell me, because you've done this thing all your life, you know those figures at the fingertips. But here in the Senate, we insist on documents. When you make a reference to a figure, you must show us, because I will be very open with you. We don't trust you. We don't trust members of the National Assembly because we believe you have more information than us and you're not putting all the cards to the table.
Ndindi Nyoro, on his end, laid bare the reasoning behind the National Assembly's revision of the equitable share.
If we want to sound sophisticated and we want to sound very official, I'll go with Honorable Sifuna. Let's raise the issues. Let's even conclude our mediation meeting today, and we proceed to the National Assembly. That is what we want. We are very agreeable. However, I don't think the mandate of this mediation is to finish the meeting quickly.
Sifuna wants an amendment to the Division of Revenue Act that stipulates who bears the brunt in the event of unexpected occurrences so as to shield county government shares.
As a fundamental principle, the Senate will never in any financial year agree to a reduction of the amount below the previous financial year. I think that is something we must understand from the beginning. So if we were at 385 last year, I want to know the thinking behind the National Assembly deciding that we can actually defund counties by returning the figure below what we achieved in the last financial year.
Meanwhile, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, in his maiden brief of his assumption to the office of the Deputy President, reassured county governments of future timely disposal of revenue, including pending bills.
Mr. Chairman, the projected shortfall in
The committee has a 30-day mandate from its initial session to find a compromise. Alan Owino for K24.
All right, now the Ministry of Health is under scrutiny over discrepancies in payment data for county health promoters who allocated 70 million Kenya shillings in stipends. And as Bentura Kwamboka reports, the CEO of the Social Health Authority faced tough questions over the need for means testing within the Social Health Insurance Fund's indigent category.
Digital Health Agency.
It is now emerging that there were discrepancies in the payment of stipends to community health volunteers in the last fiscal year, despite a 70 million shillings budget set aside for this payment.
At Narumoro Level 4 Hospital, they have been offering services for the last financial year. If I calculate their stipend, it's supposed to be 70,140,000. Who are these other ghosts that are being supported in Nyeri? So this information is not coming from the field, it is coming from the ministry. There are disparity in figures.
Unable to explain conflicting figures regarding to the number of community health CHPs and the disbursement of funds, Public Health and Professional Standards PS Mary Muthoni found herself hot on heels when she appeared before the National Assembly Health Committee, as she responded to questions about the 121,000 CHPs listed in the ministry's database.
Out of the 100,000 that you had actually enrolled, you have a deficit
of 4,000.
About 3,000 to 4,000.
The issue of the numbers, I have said that it would be important to go back and interrogate the system again, because this statement is actually misleading. All of us.
Admitting to challenges in the rollout of Social Health Insurance Fund SHIF due to system instability during its first month of rollout, Elijah Washira, the acting CEO of the Social Health Authority, explained that individuals categorized as indigent will be required to undergo means testing to determine eligibility.
Those indigents showed that indeed there are people who were supposed to pay much more than they were paying. So some government was paying 500 shillings, and if their lifestyles and others were looked at, it came out they fitted in the category of 1,700. What the SHE Act says, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, is that everybody will go through the means testing process. When the means testing process
that is not in the Act.
However, under the new chronic critical fund, 95% of NHIF cancer patients who previously exhausted their coverage and paid out of pocket will receive support.
For cancer patients, the data that we had was 95% of patients who were seeking NHIF cancer benefits were using less than 400,000. That's the first thing. The second thing is the reason why we have the emergency chronic critical illness fund was so that anyone who exhausts their benefits at the chief contribution level is supposed to transition to the Emergency Chronic Critical Illness Fund, which is appropriated by Parliament.
To date, 6 million Kenyans have successfully transferred their data from NHIF to SHIF, and an additional 7 million individuals who were not previously in NHIF have completed their SHIF registration through the USSD code and SHA website. SHA has processed pre-authorization claims worth 2 billion shillings, with 169 million shillings already cleared for payment in its first month of operations. Bentura Kwamboka, K24, Nairobi.
All right, now former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is set to unveil his strategic vision for the African Union, a mechanism he believes will propel him to secure the chairmanship of the African Union in the upcoming elections stated for February 2025. Raila has emphasized that Africa, despite being the richest continent in terms of resources, still lags behind. Now, Kenya has fully supported Odinga in his quest for AU leadership, with President William Ruto leading the charge. As Electing Odera reports, Kenya is relying on strategies that highlight how their candidate will unify the continent and enhance its sustainability through peace missions and effective utilization of Africa's vast resources.
As the countdown to the 6th AU general elections continues, East Africa's candidate Raila Odinga appears to be leaving nothing to chance.
Sovereignty and unity. In my view, those two things should not be competing. They are complementary.
Tomorrow, the former Kenya's Prime Minister is expected to unveil his vision and strategies in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. According to Odinga, infrastructure development in the Horn of Africa will improve the continent's chance from benefiting equally by all countries encompassed in the continent.
And Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of resources. The paradox is the richest is also the poorest in terms of living conditions of its people.
This even as President William Ruto has been actively supporting Raila's campaign, aiming to secure the chairmanship for him.
Of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
The duo, who are currently in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, attending the high-level meeting in the World Without Hunger conference, feel that time is ripe to support African financial institutions that they feel have been neglected by AU.
We don't have the stamp of approval of the African Union as African financial institutions. We recognize the World Bank, we recognize the IMF, we recognize all the others, but our own African institutions, we don't. It is the reason why we sponsored the resolution for these organizations, African institutions, to be recognized as having the approval of African Union. We have also made a decision as heads of state that we are going to buy more shares. Like, for example, Kenya, we are buying more shares in Afriexim, we are buying more shares in TDB, we are buying more shares because we need to support this institution because they support our economies.
President Ruto asserts that insecurity and instability on the continent have hindered trade and investment, emphasizing the need to reorganize the AU Peace and Security Council.
Our peace and security infrastructure requires a rethink. We cannot continue the way we are continuing. I think the days of, the 20,000 AU peacekeeping force are slowly fading away, and we need, as Africa, to begin to take charge.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed revealed that if Africa is to address food insecurity, then policies should be put in place that insist on collaboration, fair market access across nations, and technology transfer. Sentiments echoed by Gad Muller, the Director General of UNIDO, who stressed on the need for partnerships.
Hunger is not an isolated issue and requires a unified and relentless
global response.
The industrialized countries, the G7, they must fulfill their commitments from the future, from the past. And that is the 0.7 goal, the climate fund commitment, a debt relief, especially for LDC countries in Africa.
As Odinga gets ready to present his strategic vision, it could serve as a key strategy to bolster Kenya's campaign to persuade other African nations to support him. This effort comes amid strong competition from Djibouti's Mahamoud Ali Yusuf. The two are among the 4 candidates vying to succeed the current chairperson, Musa Faki Mahamat. Electin Odera, K24 TV.
All right, now that story by Electin Odera takes us to our first break here on New Dawn this particular morning. When we come back, I'll be taking you through what you're waking up to as far as the newspapers are concerned, and also recap on one story before we now get into our conversation this morning about women representation in Africa and also in elective positions across the globe, all right? So why can't we have that two-third gender rule, especially in the country, achieved despite the 2010 constitution stipulating that that should be the case? What is it that is the barrier that is preventing us from achieving the two-third gender rule and having women in political positions? That conversation coming later on here on New Dawn. Continue engaging us on our socials at Amwai Brian on X, at K24 TV, across social media platforms. We'll be sampling your feedback as we continue with the program this particular morning. The hashtag you're using is New Dawn. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a few.
Catch every thrilling moment of the English Premier League. The German FA Cup.
Harry Kane! Harry Kane scores! How many times have you had that?
La Liga. Serie A.
Marcus Thuram! What a start to life in the Milan derby!
And all Manchester City games.
He goes and Stones and Haaland!
Live on K24. This season, K24 is your playground for champions. Don't miss out. Tune in and watch the best football from around the world on Maskani ya Machampe, live on K24. Game ni 90, lakini ball ni 24/7 hapa K24. Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp.
Even Job, he overcome the lines the devil had put for him. He entered the next level. Today, I prophesy, just like Job, God bless his life. Yeah. He received double. Today, you are crossing that suffering, crossing that sickness, crossing that failure, that poverty, joblessness. You are entering your next level. Double.
At
People Daily, we believe small actions lead to monumental changes. As we commit to a greener future, embrace simple steps, reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's time to go green. Kua Green. Switch off unused lights, opt for reusables over disposables, and support eco-friendly products. A choice, no matter how small, makes a difference. Inspire others with your green journey, and together let's shape a more sustainable tomorrow. Kua Green is an initiative of the People Daily.
I couldn't imagine leaving my children. Who I was going to leave my children with?
Kisumu Pacho. Get ready this November 10th. K24 TV brings you a powerful edition of Get Real, broadcasting live from Kisumu City. We'll be diving deep into a topic that affects us all: gender-based violence.
This is the reason why people kill men. Just for this reason, that you might have feel a sense of justice.
Hear from survivors, activists and community leaders as they share their stories, struggles and solutions to ending violence in our homes, schools and communities.
First of all, I want to show that I overcame. First of all, I want to show that there is pain in this process and that the reality of this thing, it takes time.
Join us as we tackle tough questions, uncover hidden truths and inspire real change.
We need something just more than apology, something just much more than money, something just much more than compensation.
Get Real, where voices are heard, stories are shared and solutions are found. Don't miss this important conversation only on K24 TV.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us here on New Dawn as we continue bringing you up to speed with what you're waking up to and the news of the day. And also later on have a conversation on what will be forming the agenda of the nation today. Now listen, I have my guests in studio who will be helping me look at what you're waking up to as far as newspapers are concerned, and also just have that conversation on women leadership in the country and across the continent. I'll be speaking to, of course, Sheila Olang, who is an economist and a political analyst. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having
I know
me.
it's raining. It's been raining out there. I don't know if did I make it hard for you guys to.
Of course, the topic is very important.
The topic is important.
When it comes to gender, we were here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very appreciated. Rachel Omolo, of course, governance expert. This is not the first time I'm hosting you.
Yeah, sure.
It's been a minute since I hosted you the last time.
I know. Thank you.
Okay,
pleasure's mine.
Thank you so much for coming this morning. All right, we do want to take a look at what you're waking up to as far as newspapers are concerned, but I don't know if we take that story first or we take a... All right, so let's take a look at what you're waking up to. And I want us to start with the People Daily. And this is how Trump victory will affect you, as Kamala concedes, saying she was proud of the race her team ran and the way they did it. Now, this is a story on page 4 and 5. Of course, one of the biggest stories across the globe at this particular moment as you look at the election, the concluded elections of the United States of America. Let's take a look at that story, and it says, with Donald Trump's sweeping election victory Tuesday, the world is now preparing for another 4 years of unpredictability and America first protectionism that could reset the ground rules of the global economy, empower autocrats and erase U.S. protection for democratic partners. Although foreign affairs proved largely absent from the campaign, Trump has made several statements that, if turned into policy, will transform America's relationship with both allies and adversaries. This is a story on page 4 of the People Daily. Of course, you can take a look at that on this particular newspaper. Another story making headlines on this newspaper is, "It wasn't us," police chief says on Gen Z massacre. This is a story on page 3, which begs the question, then who was it? Because we were able to see, they were caught on camera, with what they're being accused actually of doing. This is a story on page 3. Let me just take you through that. And they say the National Police Service yesterday distanced itself from the deadly wave of abductions, kidnappings and extrajudicial killings. But Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and Deputy Director of Criminal Investigations John Onyango provided chilling details of how victims are lured, abducted and killed by criminals. So police say it is not them. And just the other day, we did have, that is on Tuesday, we did have the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights actually saying their report indicates that all these abductions and killings have been conducted by men in uniform, that is police officers. Another story making headlines here is Ruto eyes new window for borrowing spree, a story on page 17. Of course, we'll be getting a look at that and just try to make sense of what this means for you as a citizen of this country. On the Daily Nation, loans, MPs give Ruto a blank check. Now, the government is seeking a free hand to continue borrowing beyond the legal debt ceiling of 55% of the gross domestic product. As part of new proposals sponsored by the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, the National Treasury has proposed the extension of coming into force of the debt threshold as percentage of GDP go beyond 2028. This is a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Another story making headlines on this newspaper is MPs allege evidence tampering in the 16.5 billion edible oil scam probe. Now, legislators want to know the status of investigations into the controversial scandal, claiming high-level interference into the inquiry. Now, the development follows admission by the Kenya National Trading Corporation that Kenya lost at least 6.5 billion. On matters education, state promises to promote primary head teachers. Now, Education CS Julius Ogamba says state is considering their request for elevation to principals due to the additional responsibilities they have assumed since introduction of junior schools last year. Story on page 8. On issues kidnapping, of course, it is not us, says police boss. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja says 42 Kenyans died during the anti-tax protests, even as he absolved the service from wrongdoing. Kamala Harris concedes but vows to fight on. Now, in a concession speech, the Vice President acknowledges President-elect Donald Trump's win while warning of potential dark times. This is a story on page 3. Page 23 says crisis as county workers go months without salaries. Now, county government workers are going through tough times following months of delayed pay owing to the late disbursement of monthly dues to devolved units by the Treasury. Let's take a look at what the Standard is saying. And the top story of the Standard is, of course, abductions. Puzzles as police say it wasn't us. Now, the identity of people behind the recent spate of abductions, which has angered Kenyans and drawn condemnation, was thrown into a spin yesterday after top police bosses led by IG Douglas Kanja denied before MPs that police officers had anything to do with it. The question now is, who is behind this brazen wave of injustice on Kenyans? Sex pest held for filming children. A suspected pedophile who filmed himself sexually assaulting several children and storing the recordings on his mobile phone has been arrested. Police say the suspect, aged 42, also filmed children getting undressed and sold the material online to sexual predators. What kind of punishment does this person deserve? Quickly.
Life in prison.
Life in prison, Sheila.
Life imprisonment.
Life in prison. All right. Raila's AUC chair campaign enters crucial phase. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who fancies his chances of replacing outgoing Chadian Musa Faki Mahamat as African Union Commission chairman, formally begins his journey in continental politics today with the launch of his bid at the body's headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, stepping up gear campaigns for the seat that falls vacant in February. Still on this particular newspaper, we have fears and hopes of Kenyans in U.S. as U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris gave a defiant concession speech following Donald Trump's presidential win, even as Kenyans in America laid bare their wishes. Of course, we also have on business, Safaricom profit hits 48 billion. Matter Sports, Arteta's vow after losses. This is a story on page 40. And on the global stage, we have Russia's new demand to end attacks, a story on page 30. And senators clash with MPs over county billions. This is a story on page 10, of course, national news. Let us begin with what happened yesterday in the National Assembly. And that has to do with what we experienced during the June and July protest, and also what we are still experiencing up to today. Abductions, you know, as you know, we were hoping that the man that is in charge would come out and, you know, I don't want to say honor, but come out and give clarifications on these particular issues, you know, so that we get justice for the victims. Those that are missing actually get the justice they deserve. Those that were killed during those particular protests actually get the justice they deserve. But you see, when they were questioned on this, they've denied that it is not them. So who then was it? What do you make of this? Let me start with you, Sheila.
I think it's very unfortunate that our police system takes us for, yani natubeba ufala, assumes that we are that naive. So two things. The first thing is, when they say it is not us, it does not absolve them from responsibility, because it is their responsibility to protect us. So when they say it's not us, they have a responsibility to tell us, however, it is so and so, or here's how far we've gone by figuring out what it is. Unfortunately for them, we actually live in a digital age where we have a lot of evidence. During the protest, I was one of the people who participated in the protest. One of the most important tricks and tools that we were given was that we need to document everything. We have to document the revolution. And so, for the most part, you'll find that people had, and the media was really helpful with this. And I have to thank the media fraternity, because they were able to capture the faces, the pictures, the videos of what happened when somebody was being abducted. Now we have CCTV footages when people are being abducted from their homes and things like that. And so we have this evidence. This evidence back then was forwarded to IPOA. And IPOA themselves came back and said, we are like toothless dogs, right? So we are summoning them, and nobody's coming forward and giving us an answer. So once again, we find ourselves in a position where, instead of having an honest conversation with the public and saying, hey, listen, these are the challenges we're going, and this is what we're working through, which I would have hoped this government would try to focus on, given the trust deficit that is going on in the country. With trust deficit, honesty, communication, temperament is very key to making the public rally back and understand that something is actually happening. So I would say it's very, nobody believes any of this. And if they keep this up, they're just going to make people even more upset.
Okay. Rachel, like Sheila puts it, there's video evidence, and maybe that video evidence may not be, you know, used as evidence in the court of law or anything. But there's video evidence, there's documentation. People saw that this attacks, this brutality was carried out by police officers. They come out and say, now it is not us. They have been captured on CCTV camera, you know, are taking people by force on the roads from their homes, you know, and people disappearing for a moment. Then later on, you know, we are told that they're being held in a certain police station and all that. Yet you come out and say, you know, it is not us, you know, there are criminal elements within our society that are actually conducting this. So what do we make of this before I ask you my next question, which will be then, let's get through that first.
You know, first, I think our police take us for fools, if I may say. One, we have a right to protest. It is enshrined in the Constitution, and a peaceful protest for that matter. And when you look at the Gen Zs and the way they were protesting, and even other people who came to join them, largely it was peaceful until the police joined in and it became chaotic. But having said that, it is their responsibility to ensure that the protesters are secure, they are safe, and they are accorded the security that they deserve during the period of protest. So when they tell us that they do not know who actually killed them, who abducted them, and we continue to see police brutality, we continue to see abductions to date, then they are failing in their role in ensuring that Kenya is a safe country. And the narrative they're sending out there is how insecure our country is. And that should actually worry the president.
Okay.
Because we also saw the other day Turkish citizens, some of them were also abducted, and before we could know it, they were already sent back.
And the government is actually giving
conflicting information also about some of these abductions, and then later on it comes to light that actually it was orchestrated by the police. So I think it is something, it's a worrying trend, and the civil society should come out. And I'm happy that even the foreign what do you call them, other foreign entities have also come out to call out on these abductions and excesses from the police. So it is something that is worrying, and it's a worrying trend really, because it's like every week we are seeing new abductions and nothing is happening, and the police came telling us we don't know who did this, and it means that the police are not doing their work, and we should hold the former CS Interior accountable.
And that's what I wanted to ask next, because you see, this is somebody that has now transitioned to being now the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
That does not.
Yesterday, yesterday he was giving his a track record in terms of the achievements he's been able to have in the Ministry of Interior. And one thing that I kept asking myself, are you going to talk about the issues that we've been able to experience as far as abductions and death are concerned? We did not get to see that. So who then gets to take responsibility for this? Because you have the man that sat at the helm when all this was happening, not willing to, take responsibility. The honorable thing would be to take responsibility. And I know at times it's like we dream too much as a nation.
We are not dreaming. And if you look at very mature democracies, and you'll bear me witness, if you're found not be able to articulate or to execute your roles or your duties, then the honorable thing for you to do is just to resign, But in our country, even when you look at the InfoTrack, I think they were giving them some percentages of how well they performed, their performance indexes. And I think one of the times I was on air and I asked myself, does it mean that you are the best performing CS and you're given as 35, it was a 37% index, it's something you should be proud of? You've all failed. So if we call a spade as a nation, it doesn't mean that because you're #1 CS in performance, but your rating is wanting, then you are good to go. So I think those are some of the things that we need to focus on, because we forget that even as at one point when you're in school, and you are the best performing student, but you had a D, then you've actually failed. It doesn't mean you're #1 and it's something you should be proud of. So for me, I think we need to grow up as a nation in a manner in which our leadership structure is, and also in adherence to the Constitution, whereby the leaders who are mandated to execute their mandates ensure that if you don't deliver, can we have a mechanism or a framework where we monitor their performance and can recall them, not the way we recall the former president, but we recall them on basis of performance, not on basis of how we feel about you. And then, so if you listen to the Deputy President, Professor Kindiki, and enumerating his track record under this particular ministry, and the things that we want to hear he's not speaking to, then I think he totally failed us as a people.
Sheila, what does this speak to our democracy and even as a country when you have the Inspector General of Police coming out to deny any involvement in what we will call abductions and killings? 60 people have died so far. According to the police, they're saying 42 rather, but according to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, says it is 60 that have been actually recorded. And all these 60, it is the police officers that have done this. But you're coming, the IG is coming out and saying, okay, it is not us, there are criminal elements that, have been doing this and we have a detailed explanation on how they've been doing that, you know, we can be able to table that.
Right.
But nobody is being held accountable. Even the investigations themselves are not saying these are the people that carried out the murders, now we are presenting them in court. So it is just talk to some extent.
I think it is a lack of reading the job description. When you are a public servant and you're in public office, it is very crucial that you understand what your role is. Because when I see something that, like the Inspector General coming in and saying it wasn't us, but not telling us who it is, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, you are failing at your job because you're supposed to give us still an explanation of what is happening. Yeah. There's been a lot of rampant insecurity in this country. And I can tell you that when things happen at a macro level, I always say you're teaching us at the micro level how to behave. So I'll give you a practical example. We saw that after the protest, there's been a trend of a rise in criminality, criminal activities, a lot of murders, a lot of femicide. But beyond femicide, there's also been very key matters that are going on. And I can guarantee you that we have a lot of research that says that people are looking at the top, at what the top is getting away with, and I'm taking that home, and I'm thinking, how can Sheila get away with this at home? How can I go and then, you know, kill my neighbor? Or how can I go, because I know I can get away with this, because the police and the government is teaching its citizens how to behave. And I think that's something that as Kenyans, we cannot allow that. We have to keep ourselves accountable and responsible for each other, starting really at the micro level, but also at the top in leadership. So when you have the police saying, we have 60 people who have died, and this is not just coming from the Inspector General. You know, sometimes we bash the Inspector General and we leave, you know, other people who can also be responsible. If you remember the speech, the first speech that the president gave after the protest, do you remember what he said? Do you remember what he said? There were several things, but one of them was when he was asked, there was a child who was shot, and he asked, "Oh, is he still alive?" When he was told, "No, there's people who are hurting," what did he? He told people, "Those are criminals. Those are not, you know, citizens of this country." So we can see a particular pattern and a particular trend. And I think post, when we had this broad-based government, whatever you want to call it, the hope was that we have peace now. Can we have true reconciliation? If you do not have true reconciliation, and true reconciliation comes with one, accepting. When you apologize to somebody, you have to accept, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. Number two, you have to take responsibility. You have to say, these are the measures, these are the steps that I'm taking to ensure that this will not happen again. So if you're telling me that 60 lives were lost, and to this day, there is not one person who has been held accountable, although we have evidence. It's not one of those cases where we don't have evidence. We have evidence. But the same government was able to impeach a deputy president in a record-breaking speed, swear in a new one very quickly. The same government has been able to go through an Adani deal in a record one day and approve giving a national asset to a foreign entity. Where is the same amount of speed when it comes to our security? That is just unacceptable.
All right, and something Rachel had mentioned, in mature democracies, are we still teething when it comes to because in mature democracies, that's what we normally say. In mature democracies, people will resign. People will, you know, own up to their mistakes. Governments will say we failed on this particular front and people need to take responsibility moving forward. Yet, when you come to Kenya, it is denial, 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 deny until, I don't know. Then 26 people are still missing at this particular moment. We have it, you know, according to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, that is 2016.
The sad bit about it, including an MCA, a sitting member of county assembly is missing, and it's just normal, very normal, that you pick a representative of the people, he's missing for 2 months, and these people are lacking representation. And this is not worrying the county, it is not worrying the government. And you are still seeing the same things replicated every week. I mean, if really we were in a mature democracy, believe you me, today the CS of Interior would have been probably even arrested. The IG would be gone because they have failed the citizens they are serving. They have failed us.
Do you think the government chooses cases to expedite when it comes to investigations?
Of course. It endorses. For me, it's a sign of endorsement. It's a clear sign of endorsement. And this happens even in our family setting. if you have one child who is like the favorite child of the family, when they spill some milk somewhere, you're like, Kababa, it's okay, just wipe the milk and go. And yet when you have one where you really don't want that child, then you see those particular people, then they start saying, why did you spill the milk? Go away, you won't even have breakfast. So we are seeing that there's an endorsement. There's an endorsement, or there's a sense of protectionism. And if you were part of the protest, you could see that the police officers, they were okay with it. And it's the same thing that happened with the finance bill. Do you know why the members of parliament did not mind going through the finance bill, and even to this day don't mind not listening to us? You're going to recall them and take them where? Where is the IEBC? Where is the IEBC to organize a new re-election? So if I was sitting today as a member of parliament, I just sit there nice and easy, because unless I really want to do the right thing, if I don't want to do the right thing, you want to recall me as an MP or as a senator, whatever it is, and then recall me to do what? Where am I going for the next election?
There's one member of parliament that I remember said, sent a text to one of the electorates, akasema, I've collected enough. I don't need your votes.
That's it.
So whatever you decide to do with that, I'm done with you guys. Anyway, we do want to take a break, but before you do that, now the Tea Board of Kenya has some important activities during this period as they celebrate 100 years. Now starting from the 6th to the 8th, now they will have Heritage Week at Karatina University each day beginning at 8 a.m. That will also be seen here today, and of course we'll be live on that particular front to bring you up to speed with that. Now climax of Heritage Week is today Friday on the 8th, where people shall be entertained by a huge team from K24 Tv, Milele FM and the Kameme FM. Now the squad shall be led by Tony Mwirigi of K24, MC Tricky, and Mitch, the comedian from Milele FM, and Chef Gademba, aka T-Master from Kameme FM. Now the entertainment shall start at 8 a.m. today till late. Now it's not here in studio, it's in Karatina. I'm hoping that to go on my guest, but we are not there. So we take a break, we'll be back in a few.
Emotions, relationships,